Hello and welcome. My name is Vincent Faney. I'm the producer of a new show called Vinsanity Unplugged, in search of game changers. My job, my mission, my passion is to go out into the community and see people from every walk of life, every field of human endeavor, whether it's music, art, athletics of some sort. And my special interest obviously is also social activism and many of the people, candidates and the politicians who help to facilitate social activism. So today I'm going to be interviewing a person who I think is an actual game changer. He's won the primaries for the Republican Party.
Yes.
Okay, for the state senate?
State representative.
State representative.
And
okay.
11. And
his name is Mr. Mark Herbert. And Mark, it's great to have you on. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good to be here. And just to clarify, I also, in addition to the Republican nomination, I'm also very humbled and grateful that I won the Independent Party nomination as well.
Oh, okay, great.
So I'm actually going to be running as both the Republican and the Independent candidate.
Okay, how can you do that? I mean, it's like...
What happens is what we did is realizing that the Independent Party was not submitting a candidate of their own, we basically asked them to take a look at me and my background and to write me in as a candidate. And so that's what they did.
Well, that's pretty cool. So let me ask you, so you're a Republican and an independent?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Would a Democrat have that same option? Just kind of curious.
They would. They
Okay.
would. It's not as, candidly, given partisan politics, it's not as typical, but
Okay.
it is something that people can do. And it's actually, something not just about me, but I think one of the things that is important is what I'm encouraging people to do when I'm out there talking to people is vote for the candidate. Don't vote for the party.
Right.
Take a look at who the person is and get to the person.
Right.
Which kind of takes me to your initial question, Vincent, is who is Mark Herbert? Okay.
Yes.
So Mark Herbert, professionally, I'm a management consultant. I've been a former C-level executive. I got my formal training and everything in the human resources area, so working with people, working with employers and employees. For the last 10 years or so, I've been focused pretty much exclusively on doing management consulting for businesses ranging from entrepreneurs to larger businesses. And then I don't remember if the last time we talked if I had taken over responsibility, but I'm actually running a not-for-profit agency in town here as well that works with the developmentally disabled.
I actually can't recall. You have so many things that you're into. I do know that you've written at least 2 books.
Yes.
One of, let's see, the title, that HR book that you wrote.
Managing Whole People.
Managing Whole People. I didn't get through the whole book yet.
Okay.
It's a great book.
Well, thank you.
And it was kind of ironic. Some of the things you wrote about you early on, about yourself, kind of resonated with me. It's almost like I thought he's writing about me.
Well,
except I haven't gone into the level.
No, but we all have stories, and we all have paths that we take and everything like
Right.
that. I think one thing we definitely have in common is, to your point, we're both community activists. We may be doing it a different way, but the mission that we're pursuing is the same.
Right. We like people. We have faith in people. We just want to see everybody work together. And one thing that Mark strongly emphasizes, which kind of really gets my heart and resonates with me, is that when people are running, they have to pick a party. But, one thing we agreed on is this is not about partisan politics. You and I are people who just want solutions.
Yes.
We're not concerned about this party's better, that party's better. We want solutions. And of course, you're the type of person who likes going across the aisle and say, let's find solutions, guys.
Absolutely.
And that, of course, that really strikes a chord with me.
And candidly, it's a big reason why I'm running, Vincent, is that when I take a look at what's happening in our state right now, I don't see that kind of bipartisan cooperation, and it's disappointing. I think that we have things that are confronting all of the citizens of Oregon, and I would like to see a little bit more collaboration, a little bit more leadership from both parties in terms of focusing on
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there isn't the collaboration that you and I believe can actually happen, and does occur? What is holding that back?
I think when you are part of a larger group, it is difficult to buck the party line. I think that there is an expectation in the larger parties that says this is who we are, this is what we do, and you fall in the step.
Okay.
And leadership says, if we take a look at some of the things that are occurring nationally, there have been a couple of races that occurred, and I'm sad to admit it was in the Republican Party, where candidates stepped away from the president on some issues. And they were punished for that.
Okay.
The support wasn't there.
So in one way, do you think, on one hand, you want to support your party? On the other hand, do you think do you think there's times that people should say, I'm devoted to my party, but we need to speak out on certain issues?
Every time. You know, Vincent, to me, at the end of the day, the people who vote for you, the people who are in your district are your constituents, not the party.
Right.
Now, whether you associate yourself with a party or not has to do with where the beliefs are and how they look at things and everything like that. But at the end of the day, the people that you need to be accountable to are the people who elect you.
Okay.
And I don't mean just the people who elect you, who vote for you, but in terms of what I take a look at my priorities, the most important things for me are the constituents in House District 11, followed by the citizens of the rest of the 2 counties that I'm going to be representing, and then the state of Oregon. And I need to pay attention to that. I'm not running for the job as their boss.
Right.
I'm running for a job as their representative, and I think it's important to remember that.
Right. Well, you know, one thing that I'm curious about is it seems to be one thing that's frustrating me. I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but one thing that's frustrating me about people is how people, whether it's it forces more partisan politics or other behaviors where you pick a football team. It seems like humans like to get into a tribalistic mode.
Well, I think they do, and I think that's natural. You know, when we take a look at events, and it's typical that we really know a pretty limited number of people. I know with social media and everything like that, it's very clever to say oh, I have 1,000 friends on Facebook, or I have, you know, 9,000 connections and things like that. But how many people are you really connected to?
Yeah, not even my own housemates.
There's a thing called Dunbar's number.
Dunbar's number, yes.
And Dunbar's number says that most of us, that the most people we can really know in any kind of an intimate way is 100 people. 100
people.
We get beyond that, it starts to get a little bit more fractured. There are people who can do more, people who can do less, but overall, and so I think that there is that desire to be with your tribe, okay, to be with people. And I think that's fine. I think that the problem becomes when you start to see people who don't absolutely share your beliefs as being wrong, or as people that you want to keep outside that. I'm a big fan of inclusion versus exclusion.
Right. You know, there's a guy who's a psychologist, sociologist from Canada who's causing a lot of waves. I don't want to bring up his name, but he was basically saying the same thing, and I'm not going to bring up any current or past politicians that everybody likes and dislikes, no matter who you are as a politician. People will like you. They're your disciples, or they're totally vilify you, no matter who you are.
Pretty much that's human nature.
Yeah, it's human nature. But the thing I liked about him, now he didn't like this politician that was elected in a certain period of history, and true to the nature of people, a large percentage of the population were rabidly behind this politician. Now the one thing he said is, you know, I would never vote for this guy, and there's a lot of bad things I could say about this guy, but we got to be careful about how we try not to dismiss the people who voted for him, because the people who voted for him, even if this guy was evil, doesn't mean that these people are evil. These are people that are hurting, they're scared, they want some leadership, and so we got to find a way of addressing issues without excluding this other percentage. Like kind of regard each other, regardless if they vote Republican, Democrat, Independent, and just give people the respect and say, you know, we really all want the same thing. We're just disagreeing a little bit on how to go about it. And we maybe, you know, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you don't see this guy in the same lens that we see this person. So we got to be very careful about that, and that's what I see. You know, the way you are is like.
I'm hoping that's true, Vincent.
Yeah.
You know, if we take a look at it, the larger number of voters actually in this district are non-affiliated voters. So they have chosen not to be associated with either party, because they feel like neither party really represents them appropriately.
Right.
The thing that's a little unfortunate about that is that means that they really don't get much of a chance to play in the primary.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
it's frustrating.
My opponent and I are their choices at this stage. I mean, they can write somebody in. But because they have not chosen to affiliate formally with a party, for the most part, they have to wait and see. They have to wait and see who's on the ballot. Yeah, and that's a little unfortunate.
Yeah, you know, when it comes to politics, you know, I am a very unsophisticated man, which is kind of embarrassing for a guy my age. And I'm still right now. And then you guys have been teaching me a lot. So you're like my Obi-Wan or Yoda, and I'm going to be your Luke Skywalker and the rest of it. So I'm learning, and I would like personally. A lot of people don't see the benefit of having more parties in a primary. I would like to see that, but some people think that would dilute it and make things more dangerous. I like to give it a chance and see. I like to give people more choices, more choices in the primary.
And I agree. I'm about choices, and I think the other thing that and don't consider yourself unsophisticated. is I've been running, what you find is people who are really engaged actively in politics. They can quote data and they can get into details and things. For the average person is holding down a job, raising their family, doing things.
Right.
There are issues that they're passionate about,
Right.
but those issues are pretty focused. And the rest of it, it's kind of like, okay, what does this really mean to me? So I also think that part of the job of a leader in an elected representative is to both educate and to be educated.
Right.
Educating is to say to people, this is why this is important to you.
Right.
Okay, this is why you don't think this matters to you. What happens here? This is why it does. Because it can sneak back up on you and have a pretty nasty effect. Well, when did that happen? Well, it happened when you didn't have your eye on the ball.
Right.
In the legislature or Congress or somebody passed a law. Alternatively, I think it's also very, very important if you're an elected representative to be educated about the issues that are in front of you, is to not go into there with a set position as this is right, this is wrong.
Right.
But to actually go out and do the data and do the intelligence and do the data gathering.
Right.
You're probably not going to be able to do it all yourself, but that's why they're staff, that's why they're people. Is I have been running over these past few weeks, one of the things that I have really enjoyed, because I'm curious, is the opportunity I've had to meet with people from different industries and different groups to be educated about what's important to them and what some of the challenges and things are that are confronting them, and they've been curious to hear where I'm at on those. And
Right.
some of them I'll admit, I'm really educating myself.
Oh, yeah.
I said I don't have a position right now.
Right.
Tell me why I should. Tell me more about this. Educate me.
Right.
I think that's important.
And that's true if you're a CEO or a head of any business or anything. Even if it's your business, you still have people under you, even though it's your business, and you hire people to educate you.
And you should. That's exactly right, Vincent. You should always remember that the reason you hired people is because they brought something to the table that you did not have.
Yes.
And I think where we would get into trouble is when we lose sight of that. I've used the expression more than once. I have rarely been the smartest guy in any room I'm in. There's a lot of smart people out there.
Yeah.
And being able to recognize that and be humble to realize that that person who is doing that job every day is going to have a different perspective and a different viewpoint and different value to bring to that decision making than you do.
Right. It's interesting as a side note. Years ago, I had quite an interest in the alleged IQ or intelligence level of different people in various careers. And in a way, it didn't surprise me that a lot of people think, well, these captains of industry have the highest IQs. They must be geniuses. And what it turns out is that most of them have like an IQ of 125.
Yep.
They're just bright. They're not geniuses.
Right.
They're systems oriented. They take things, look at the whole instead of just focusing on a little detailed thing. And they just know how to size up people. They know what they need, and they go. But they don't know They don't know what to do with the various things they need. So they know how to size up people, and they hire people with 160 IQs who are like focused on these different things that they need.
Exactly. That is the difference between entrepreneurs that go on to become a Bill Gates. Or
Stephen Jobs.
Exactly, because they recognize that, and then there's the entrepreneurs that find it difficult to let go,
Yeah.
and that's why their businesses kind of stay at a certain size.
Right.
I will tell you from my own experience, you start adding people to the mix, it becomes more complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, when you're interacting and working with stakeholders, the bigger and bigger that gets, the less and less you're going to have that personal touch.
Right.
For example, I'm working with a client right now who started a business. He's a brilliant entrepreneur. Now he's up around 40 people. And he's realizing the kinds of people I hire, especially in my leadership team, need to be very different. Because he said, I used to be the idea guy. I had all the ideas, and then I hired people to execute those ideas.
Yeah.
Now I'm realizing I need more ideas. I need to hire people who also bring ideas to the party and collaborate with me. That's a completely different skill set than I've hired for before. So he's going through that transition. It's fun to help him.
Yeah, it's nice to meet different people who just say, hey, I don't want to be the idea guy. Just let me do this programming for you. Let me write code. Let me do this, and they're happiest like that. So that's great. Yeah. So you as running for when you get into office, how are you going to keep touch? Can I keep how are you going to not because you're going to be in charge, or not in charge, overseeing and directing and working for a huge people beyond 40. So how does that work?
Well, I think that there's a number of things. Yeah, you're going to be up in Salem and everything doing the work of being a legislature, but I think when you're not up in Salem, you need to be talking to people. You need to be talking to people in person. You need to be talking to people via social media. You need to be talking to people via email. There are ways that you can get information. You just have to make it a point of doing that. It's a challenging thing to hear people and to hear their issues. I think that one of the things that I've seen very successful people do who are in office is holding town halls and things like that, making themselves available. Just being in the community and letting your constituents know is okay. Representative, I'm going to be at this location at this time. I'm going to be here at the park. Come and talk to me. Come and see me. One of the things that, I'm running an organization right now where I have 240 employees.
Wow.
And what people say to me that they like, and I'm very proud of, say, you get back to us. You actually read the emails, okay?
Yeah.
You actually take the phone calls, and you get back to us. It's and you get back to us pretty damn fast. Okay?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, wow. We thought, I'm going to write this, and I'll never hear from this guy. And bing, my email goes off, and like, you've gotten back to me.
Yeah.
And that's important. That's an important part of being in a leadership role, is being responsive to people and hearing their issues. Sometimes that's all people want. They just want to be heard. They just want to know that they're being heard and they're being acknowledged.
Right.
And that you care. And it's on a larger scale when you're doing it, with a group of 15,000 people or something. But it can be done. You just have to make a focus on it.
So, the thing that I noticed that there's some people very successful and have their methods streamlined in doing that, and then there's people like me who seem like I spend every darn second, just trying to scramble and attempting to do that. So, sometime off the air, I'd be curious as to hear how you have things streamlined and organized, because that's essential in being successful.
It is.
As a businessman, as a community leader, as a politician or whatever, right?
It is.
Because, I mean, you got to pick the right people to help you campaign, to organize and everything, right? I mean, and how did you do that? How did you manage to get the requisite ideal number of people to be behind you and help you organize your campaign and get you where you're at?
It's an interesting thing, So what you do is you basically build almost cells, okay? You have a few people that you work with that they have people that they know. And so what you do is you expand that network. And as you get out there and you're working and you're talking to people and everything, you have people that, it's very flattering that look at what you say, they meet you or they hear you, they contact you and say, what you say really resonates with me. How can I be involved? How can I help? Can I knock on doors? Can I make phone calls for you? What can I do?
Okay.
And what you do is you find a purpose and a way for that. And to me, it's not all of that different than being an executive. Okay, you look at it and say, what are the skills? What are the things that we need to get done? And you organize it that way and say, okay, I have this person that's really great at this. I have this person that's really great at that. I have this person. And then what you do is when you come together, you create that synergy that says that you focus people on their strengths. My campaign manager, like me, is a novice politically.
Yeah.
Okay, but what he is he's an incredibly bright young man who was an NCO in the Marines.
Okay.
Okay, so he has exceptional leadership skills.
Yeah.
He has exceptional organizational skills, and he's a quick study.
Okay.
So he's a guy that, he is the original can-do Marine attitude.
Okay.
You tell him what needs to get done, and he figures out a way to get it done.
Yeah.
Those people are very, very valuable, and he's adept, and he's quick, and he's adaptive.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I brought him on board. And he's a godsend. He's just been
Love to speak to him too sometime. Yeah, because because I find I was talking to your opponent, Marty. Who I gotta be frank with you. I like you both.
I appreciate
okay. I mean, I think he's a great
Marty
guy.
Too.
Yeah, and he thinks a lot of you. And I said, God, you guys are just, I mean, you make me want to be a Republican. He makes me want to be a Democrat. But the thing is, both of you guys, I was telling them, I said they have campaign managers, and I'm like, in some ways, I find them to be more fascinating than you guys. No offense.
No, I can see that because you're looking at that, and it's interesting when you meet campaign managers as to what is their role. In some cases, it's people that aspire to be involved further in the political process themselves. In other cases, they prefer to be the person behind the scenes.
I mean, they're the cog.
Absolutely.
I mean, without them, where would you be? And without them, where would everybody else be? They're the center post.
You'd be a mess, Vincent, because there's so many moving parts to a campaign.
Right.
That I don't think people, I will tell you, this has been an incredible education for me, having really not run for a significant office before. The moving parts that are involved and just the actual work of running for office are pretty overwhelming and pretty daunting sometimes.
Yeah, you should write a book on that and give me the first copy. All right. I mean, I would read it definitely because it'd be a great education.
It's been incredibly interesting, and just the things behind it, There are so many things about it that it looks like, well, you just run. It's not quite that simple. Okay?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you need to do.
Yeah. So okay, so you got all the wheels in motion. You know, and I like that you've gone out to people personally. And you know, the first thing that I noticed that you and a few of the other candidates have done is they put emphasis going, say, door to door, and you go, what's important to you?
Yes.
You know, not like, this is what we got to get this done.
Yes.
Your first thing is what's important to you, and then you segue from there?
I do. What I actually, you know, on the approaches I've been taking, when I knock on somebody's door, what I say to them, Vincent, is I say, I'm Mark Herbert, I'm running for House District 11, and I would like an opportunity to earn your vote.
Okay.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what it would take to earn your vote. And in some cases, people have asked some questions specifically about issues. In other cases, they've been gracious and said, okay, wow. That's not till November, right? I haven't even really been thinking about that.
Right.
Do you have some information and everything that I can have that, you know, that I can think about and start to make that decision? But I want to engage them in that process. And, you know, for me, I'm not at a place where I can say to people, you know, come vote for me. I think at this point, I'm still in that earning stage. I think both Marty and I are relative unknowns in the political process. And so I think when you're building that brand, it's the same as when I come in to run an organization.
Right.
You got to get to that identity-based trust where people say, "Who is this person? Okay,
Right.
You know, who is this? Who is Marty? Who is Mark? Okay,
Right.
what do they stand for? What's important to them?" And I think you need to recognize that. That's an important thing, and that's where I start.
Well, you know, one thing I noticed is that you guys, regardless if you're in the, and again, this is not focusing on party politics, but that regardless if you're in different parties, independent, Republican, Democrat, that most of what we want, 90% or more. I mean, nobody says I'm for people being homeless.
Right.
People are like looking to solve that.
Right.
People are looking to solve, like, we need more jobs.
Yes.
Affordable housing.
Yes.
We need safety and our infrastructure. All the things. You guys agree pretty much on all these things. I mean, out there in the big world, which we're looking more locally. You got people saying, well, let's be concerned more about these peripheral issues that that are polarizing.
Right.
But the bulk of the things, 90% of the things that nobody's polarized about, we all want done.
Right.
So, you know, in a way, I guess what you have to sell us on is like, yeah, we want the same thing. I have a better approach, perhaps.
Well, when I look at it, a lot of what the Democratic Party has provided, and I'm not diminishing them in any ways. I've voted for Democrats over the course of my life. I voted for Republicans and Independents. The core values of the Republican Party that resonate with me, primarily, Vincent, as a big part of it is self-sufficiency.
Right.
Is teaching people to be self-sufficient, is limited government. Is saying that there are things that the individual, the businesses and all should be doing. It should not be the government stepping in there. And that's a big difference. It's a case of, I feel like we do have some real challenges, both locally, on a state level, on a national level, but I would prefer to see us engage people and provide vehicles for people to work through those issues and solutions themselves.
Right.
That's just a big part of what I've done for the last 35 years.
Right.
Is said, how do we empower Vincent? How do we empower people? How do we get them engaged in it? Some of those things, like, you know, one of the things that's a passion for me is healthcare. Right. Okay. I think in this country, you know, we focus a lot on the delivery of healthcare. We do not do nearly as good a job of managing health.
So could you go further?
I can.
Extrapolate.
One of the things a lot of people don't realize is that 65% of the health conditions that we face as Americans are lifestyle related.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
right.
People, by changing their lifestyle habits, their eating habits, their exercise habits, their other habits, they can have a huge effect.
Huge
on
effect.
Their health, both mentally and physically. That reduces expenses, and, you know, and what we hear a lot about is the delivery of services. Okay. I don't see as much emphasis on how can we change our lifestyles, how do we engage people. You know, one of the things that's kind of scary is probably when you and I were kids, PE was part of class.
It was
kids exercising.
Yeah.
When programs get cut, a lot of times those programs are being cut. So we have kids that are parked in front of a PlayStation or something like that. They're not actually physically exercising.
Right.
That's not good for their physical health. It's not good for their brain.
Anything, yeah. And back then we also had economics, where you know, regardless of what you you know, there were emphasis on, you know, for the women or anybody who took economics, this is good for nutrition. We also had health classes that dealt with community health.
Exactly.
And nutrition and so forth.
Exactly.
And dealt with civics. We were taught civics.
Exactly.
You know, we were taught, you had shop, like this used to be a shop, and getting rid of a lot of the blue collar skills. So in a way, a lot of Americans are less, in my opinion, less self-reliant and more reliant on technology and other people and other systems.
I'll give you a great example of it. I had an opportunity this week to visit a plant in rural Oregon, okay, that is manufacturing a new, for sake of simplicity, I'll call it a laminated lumber product. Okay, this thing is taking the world by storm. But here is a company, okay, that pays people, untrained people, to start in their organization $14.50 an hour plus benefits.
Oh, wow.
Okay, within 6 months, they're at $15.50 an hour. They can't find people to do those jobs. We have 150,000 open jobs in Oregon. Okay, family wage jobs, Vincent.
Wow.
Okay, that employers cannot find people to do, people who are qualified and willing to do that work. One of the differences between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party is when we look at some of the issues that we're facing economically, our solution is let's get people in those jobs.
Yes.
Let's not raise the minimum wage
to
$15, $16, $17 an hour artificially.
Right.
Let's get people in jobs that are paying $15, $16, $17, $18 an hour and more, because those jobs need to be done. We just look at that as a better solution, as saying let's give people the tools and all and equip them to do that. You know, I was doing the math the other day. If we take those 150,000, let's assume that that's an $18 an hour, we're talking about close to $6 trillion, Vincent. $6 trillion new money coming into the Oregon economy.
Nice.
So when I look, when the legislature says to me is we need more revenue, I said, there's 150,000 people that we had them in those jobs. That's $6 trillion and $6 billion in revenue. Okay, that could be coming in here that we could be collecting taxes on. Right. Kind of sounds like a pretty good solution to me.
Sounds like a win-win solution. Yeah, it sounds like a great solution. You know, I mean, you know, when I hear you, you know, people would have trouble. And again, I'm not focusing on which part, because I don't think one party's better than the other in some ways overall, depending on the environment. But you know, people would talk to you or they talk to me, and I'd say something. They go, "Oh, you're a Democrat." You know, why do you say that? Well, because you care about people, and you want to see you want to see people have a safety and some sort of a fallback in case in the interim when they're not being unable to do for themselves. But then the next thing you say, oh, I want people to be self-reliant and be strong. Well, you sound like a damn, you know. And I'm like, well, no, I want people to be self-reliant. I want a safety net. I want to encourage as many people to be as self-reliant as possible.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it just to me makes sense.
Well, to me, I want people to feel competent. You know, I don't know. I remember that feeling when I was a little kid. Okay, when I mastered things, like being able to ride a two-wheel bike. And when I learned to drive and felt confident about that. That just was so important for me. Psychologically, emotionally, to feel that sense of competency, that sense of independence. And it doesn't mean that, you know, that you don't give people, you know, one of the things that it's whenever you get up to the top, the first thing you should be doing is reaching down to pull the next guy up with you. That's that sense of self-reliance. It's not a case of saying we should shove people out of the lifeboat. What it does say is we should give people the skills and the tools and things like that to feel that sense of self-worth, to feel that sense of being able to participate. I have learned so much the last year working with my not-for-profit. My not-for-profit focuses on people with developmental and intellectual disabilities. And working with these people who so very much want to be part of society, who want to be engaged. Some of them have pretty severe issues, okay? They have to have help 24/7, 365. Others of them, by working with them in what we call sheltered employment and all, it gives them an opportunity to participate, to hold down a job, to ride the bus. They are so proud of the fact that they are engaged in the community, that they're living in their homes. And we provide them with some help. But for the most part, the goal is you know, we call it endless possibilities, independence, to get them engaged in that process. It's a win-win.
Nobody, I mean, there's a lot of people who get into a victim mode of thinking and they feel helpless and so forth, and they say, why aren't the rich and powerful doing something for me? And it gets to be, they spiral downwards, and I would like to see people get out of the negative self-talk and group talk that the system's against us, and they, you know, read a lot of books about why we're screwed and why we just can't do anything because, you know, the power elite's holding us down. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. But it's when some of these people get out of that mode and they you know, somehow break that cycle of negative thought and they get in and become competent, all of a sudden they're just transformed. And you're like, they went from being here to here. Now, they're certainly happier here.
Well, a great example is some of the work that the mission is doing, and I know that the mission has very much a religious background, but they now see themselves as a wellness organization.
Wellness.
We don't warehouse people. What we do, we help people to transition. We help people to become competent. We help them to get back engaged in society and the community. I think that's a very, very powerful thing that when we do that.
Yeah.
You know, like some of the issues that we look at that are very, very difficult, you touched on one, affordable housing.
Affordable housing.
Affordable housing is a complicated issue.
It is.
One of the things that is an issue with affordable housing in the Eugene-Springfield metro area is buildable land supply.
Is what?
Buildable land supply.
Oh, yeah.
If you're a builder, okay, and you pay $250,000 for a lot, okay, for the dirt, you can't put a $100,000 house on there unless you're prepared to go $150,000 in the hole.
Right. You can't put
You can't do that in sustainable business.
Right.
The other thing is when we have a lot of our economic infrastructure in Lane County is based on people who are employed in not-for-profits and government. That's not a robust economic infrastructure for people to get good-paying jobs, Vincent.
You mean you working for a nonprofit is not a good-paying job?
Typically, it pays less. Okay. The other part about it is not-for-profits aren't going to pay the taxes back.
Right. Well, the only reason why we can afford non-for-profits and afford even government agencies, or affording even your pay, let's say, is because it's the capitalist part of our structure, the private industry that finances you guys.
Well, we've pushed a lot of that out, Vincent.
Yeah.
Okay, if we take a look at it, the natural resources people in timber and farming and stuff like that, they'll tell you it's gotten more restrictive, it's gotten more difficult, it's becoming more, timber, being in a timber industry is not very popular with a lot of people in Eugene. What people forget is that this community was founded on people who harvested timber, people from agriculture, people who sought out aggregates. That was the baseline that built the city that is Eugene. That is the baseline that built the University of Oregon. That's where a lot of that money came from. But if we take a look at it a few years ago, we had some larger employers as well as small. We had Hyundai, which is now Hynix. We had Sony, we had others. They're not here anymore, Vincent.
Yeah.
Okay, those jobs went away.
Yeah, I have a question for you. This is something I've been pondering, and not being an economist or even never owned a big business where I employed lots of people unless I sub stuff out, which is not the same thing that you do, or have done. But a lot of people think it's almost like they're polarized in their thought. Like there's people who say that every form of capitalism is evil.
Right.
Okay. Then these people who are into capitalism say anything that is not capitalistic, strongly, truly capitalistic, like non-profits. There are people who think non-profits are kind of communism and socialism.
Right.
And they think socialism, communism is evil, right? So you got these people who think we should just be bartering, we should just be all non-profit, we shouldn't be concerned about profits, we this and that. So, either extreme makes me uncomfortable.
I would agree.
And I kind of look at the economy as a living system, much like a forest, like an ecology, right? In old growth, you have growth, robust growth, a diversity of things, not like a plant or tree farm that a lot of forests has become.
Right.
We know that these tree farms, they do provide lumber, but they're homogeneous, and they're subject to disease, and they're not robust as an old growth forest. But in old growth forest, you have a lot more death and decay, cycle of life going on, things falling, things going. And in a society where people lose their jobs, that's kind of bad for that person, but oftentimes things are cycling, things are moving around. And I think we need that to a degree. We just got to find a way of helping the people who fall too fast. We need to help each other. That's why some of these nonprofits provide.
And sometimes you have to reinvent yourself.
Right.
I've looked at my career, and people have kidded me like, you can't keep a job. Here you were a human resources guy, and then you were a consultant, and then you show back up over here as an executive, and now you're back in consulting.
Right. Well, you're expanding and evolving.
That's been a deliberate process for me. I've enjoyed that. I've learned all of those different things. And I think that's what we have to give people. That goes back to that resilience. How do you pivot and adapt? Okay, how do you look at the things that are different? And I think that you're right. We do look at it and say it's either or. What I do tell all of my clients, whether they are for-profit or not for-profit, okay, there's some important things. I try to stay away from nonprofit and say to people, you need to be a not-for-profit. But at the end of the day, whether you are not for-profit or for-profit, you need to run a good business.
Right.
Okay, you need to be good stewards of the resources that are provided to you, whether that's dollars from the community, whether that's services you sell, whatever. You need to be a good steward of that.
Right.
You need to be a good steward in a relationship working with your stakeholders. You know, when you go out and say to somebody, I'd like you to write me a check, okay, to support this not-for-profit that I'm involved with, you need to be able to answer 3 questions. Okay, those 3 questions. The first one is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Okay. The second one is, how are we measuring our success against that? And the third one is, how are we doing?
Okay.
Because those are the questions that philanthropists say is, okay, when you tell me that you're trying to solve the homeless population, okay, that's a noble goal, we get that and why. Now tell me how you're trying to do that, and tell me how are we doing. And by doing that, you give people something more concrete. When I started working with the agency I'm working with, they were in some financial distress. And it was, and I had to sit down with them and say, and they said, well, why don't we just go out and ask the community for money? And I said, well, probably because the community will say to us is, it doesn't look like you guys were the best stewards of the money you had.
Are you talking about the nonprofit that you were working with? In fact, I remember what you were saying. You were involved with this nonprofit before you were running for office.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool. So
and sitting down with them and saying, going and asking the community for money because we weren't good stewards of the resources we had, it's a pretty tough ask. Well, what's changed? Have you changed leadership? Have you changed philosophy? Because if you guys aren't managing the resources you had, it doesn't sound like putting more resources into it is necessarily the right solution. It sounds like you guys need to look at root causes. I'm very, very proud of the fact, Vincent, that now our organization is stable. We are stable financially. We are stable organizationally. We did it ourselves. Okay, we came together as a team. We addressed the issues, and now we're in a position where we can go out to the community and say, don't bail us out. Invest in us.
Invest, right. And
because we've shown that we can be good stewards. We've shown that we work through our issues, that we attack the problems that we had, and we resolve those problems. So now we can ask you to sit down with us and invest in this enterprise.
Right.
That's a way better story.
Way better story. You know, when I look out in the community, and I'm just going to give her a plug, her and her people, I like Occupy Medical. Sue Saralupi is doing a lot of great things. And there's a lot of other charities and nonprofits like Women's Space. Those are things I'm into. And so a lot of people say, well, you're trying to raise money for these charities, these groups. Why don't you become a nonprofit? And I kind of toying with that in a way. Then I thought, you know, I would rather be a business that, you know, pays taxes, produces jobs, or produces products and good services, make money, and just not as a tax write-off, give that money to, say, Occupy Medical and so on. Reinvest it in the community, because I mean, an investment, I don't need to invest it to make more money. I can just reinvest it for the things that the tool of money was intended to be used, and what I desire. And that's I like to see it invest in the community, but that should be my choice and not a government's choice.
Exactly. Yeah. Brilliant quote by Bill Gates. Very simple quote. Bill Gates says, and
he's big into philanthropy. I mean, my gosh.
Bill Gates says, businesses cannot survive in societies that fail.
Right.
It's synergistic.
Synergistic.
And
the whole forest thing, the whole growth thing.
And that's when you get out there, you see the synergistic nature. You know, one of the things that is a big hot issue and will be in this campaign and should be, I'm very, very disappointed, frankly, Vincent, with our state's performance in education. Okay. I'm disappointed in the fact that if we take a look at K through 12 performance, and this isn't my statistic, this is Education Weekly statistic. Right. They rate Oregon as number 40 out of 50.
And we're supposedly a progressive state, supposedly.
K through 12. Okay. When we look at our high school graduation rate, Vincent, we're number 48 out of 50. Okay. Now, the other part, though, that's a little bit concerning is when we look at per pupil spending, we're number 13.
Wow, there's a huge discrepancy. There's not. It doesn't seem like you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. I mean, just my opinion. I'm not an economist, but you know.
When we look at that, we say, okay, so what went wrong? Okay, when I look at other states that are close to us, California and Washington, they're both performing better than us and spending less.
Wow.
Okay.
That's appealing.
So
you want to do that in any business, any government endeavor, anything.
You look at that and say, okay, what are the root causes? Okay, I'm not going to say that our schools are totally adequately funded, but what I am going to say is, let's look at how we're spending that money. Are there better ways we can spend that money? One of my passions that I continue to beat this drum whenever I get the chance is I would like to see this state, I would like to see my district in this state invest very aggressively in what we call CTE. Career and technical education. We moved away from that a few years ago and really began focusing on academics. Everybody should get a college degree. Everybody should go to college. Well, first of all, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think everybody is oriented to that. Secondly, I don't know that that prepares people fully. The other thing that I love about CTE is when students are enrolled in CTE, Vincent, their academic scores go up.
CTE.
Career and Technical Education.
Okay.
Career and Technical Education, they can show you that students who enter a career and technical education kind of curriculum.
You mean like, say, wood shop or something like
exactly,
that?
Or vocational ed.
Okay, right.
VOTEC.
So you're saying it helps them across the board?
Goes up 30%.
Okay.
Graduation rates go up 30%.
That would explain a lot of my failings, perhaps.
Do you know when it really goes up? It really goes up with young men from lower economic income groups.
Okay.
Because if you're not a math guy, if math doesn't speak to you, but all of a sudden I create relevance for you in math.
Right.
Okay, I'm not teaching you math in the class. I'm teaching you, well, if you're going to build this piece of wood,
then all of a sudden they become interested. Math makes sense.
All of a sudden you engage them because it's like, oh, that turns the light on. This is why I care about that. We're starting to do some stuff. And then what I really would like to see is public-private partnership. There's a really, really good VOTEC school right up the I-5 in Salem.
Okay.
But, and I don't mean to diminish anybody in the public sector, that VOTEC school exists because a business person went to the community and said, as an employer, I need this. As a society, we need this. I'm going to take the lead on this. I'm going to invite you to collaborate with me to do this. But that came from the private sector.
Right.
I would like to see the private sector do more of that. When I'm elected, okay, what I would like to do is I would like to facilitate those conversations. Okay, I would like to bring people together and saying, a conversation I had with an educational administrator here recently, I'm not going to name him because I don't want to put him in a bad spot.
Sure.
Is I said, and he said, I love this kind of dialogue, Mark, because you're not criticizing me.
Yeah.
You're not telling me all the things I'm doing wrong and hitting me with a rubber hammer.
Yeah.
You're saying, here's some things that I had to learn that I did in business that were very helpful.
Right.
Maybe we can introduce some of these ideas, not across the board, but some of these ideas in the educational process. That's helpful to me because you know stuff I don't know.
Right.
You have a skill set that I don't have. And so I'm a consultant. That's the whole idea of a consultant is the old joke is a consultant is a person who sells you back your own advice at a markup. Okay. I like to think.
I like that.
Yeah, I like to think that I bring different ideas and saying, have we ever thought about this? Have we ever thought about doing it? I did this in another organization, or I did this in another sector. Maybe we can modify that and kind of semi-customize it and bring it into here. One of the things that I've spent a lot of time in my career working on as a consultant, as a human resources executive, is healthcare. And I remember sitting down with employers and saying, we are in the healthcare business. Okay, we are in the healthcare business because we provide healthcare for our employees. Happier, healthier employees with happier, healthier families is a good investment for us.
Oh, less sick time, less downtime, better performance.
So they
can't wait to come to work.
We need to help them.
Yeah.
One of the things we did years ago is I sat down with our healthcare provider and said, can you help me identify what the 4 biggest issues are in terms of general areas in terms of health? And I said, yeah, we can.
What are they?
They were around lifestyle.
Lifestyle, yeah.
Obesity, which leads to diabetes and a whole bunch of other things.
A whole bunch, yeah.
People feeling unengaged, so they became depressed and things like that. What we did, Vincent, is with that data, we sat down and started putting in targeted interventions for our employees and their families, and sat down and talked to them. We want you to be happier and healthier. We want your family. We're going to bring in and talk about, better food, better eating habits, better exercise habits, and things like that. And oh, by the way, what this is going to do for you, this is going to keep our medical premiums down. So what that means is we have dollars to put into raises, we have dollars to put in infrastructure and things. So it's a
matching
win-win
funds
solution.
for some.
And we had tremendous success with that because we talked to people, not at them.
Right.
Because if you just go to your carrier and those rates are unacceptable. One of the things that I faced in my agency, again, I know I'm using maybe it too much, but one of the things I faced in my agency is on top of some of our other financial structure, I had to sit down with them and say, because of our utilization, because of us not managing health, our premiums went up 20% this year.
That's huge.
It is enormous.
Yeah.
So we cannot continue to do this as an agency.
20% is huge. I like that kind of increase in my IQ or intelligence. Yeah.
Or revenues.
Or revenue.
I said,
my
I
income would be
our
great.
revenues is not going up 20.
Sure.
I said, we got to sit down and we have to work on this together. This is something you can help us help you, because I just can't keep writing this check. We are not for profit.
Yeah.
And so I'm very proud of the fact is on July 1st, okay, we were implementing our first formal wellness program. And that was a program that we developed jointly with our employees. Management didn't come to them and say, this is what we're going to do. I brought together a group of people, frankly, from the union and from management to sit down and say, what can we do together to improve the health and welfare of our employees and our dependents?
And it's nice, you said union?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's nice, it's nice that when, I have mixed feelings about unions, we need them in many ways, but they're just like any other organization. You could have this chapter over here, depending on the culture of their people.
Yes.
And the relationships they should or should not or do not have with the management and so forth, or the rank and file. It could be a disastrous and toxic, or it could just be uplifting, inspiring, and amazing, so you have this dialogue with the union, with the rank and file, and yourself, and it's all about, like, how can we make our team operate better to where we could all be happy.
What we literally sat down, Vincent, and I said, we lost your trust. I'm going to own it. We lost your trust. I'd like an opportunity to gain it back. Let's talk about what that looks like, and let's talk about how we benefit ourselves, and let's talk about the three things that are most important to all of us. The three things that are most important to us, number one, is caring for those people who we serve, our clients. That's number one. Everybody in this agency, from the executive director down to a brand new direct service provider, cares deeply about the people that we serve. The second thing is, y'all are my clients.
Right.
I care deeply about you. And so providing economic, physical, and psychological safety for the people who work in that agency is very, very, and the third thing is having a fiscally solvent, stable organization that we can do those first two things. So can we all agree on those? Absolutely. So, and let's talk about how we do that. But I also own the fact that we had lost trust. So I get it.
So there's a lot of people that, in my estimation, who are in office. Some of them should be saying that to their people.
All of them should be
or all of them. You're coming out of the gate before you get in and say, hey, we have to gain we all have to gain the trust of the people and work with each other and so forth. Just to go back, digress a little bit, what you were saying about your reinventing yourself and kind of going out like you can't keep a job. And it's funny because you hear different people who go and say, I'm going to elect this person because I trust them, because all they've done is politics. They were a lawyer, then they went into politics, and so they've been focused on politics, and they're a specialist. I'm going to go for them. Then you get someone else who goes, well, I'm going to get somebody who doesn't need the money, and I'm just going to go for someone who's just been a trust fund baby, very educated. I'm going to go for him. Then you get somebody who goes, well, I don't know, maybe I'll go for an actor. Brad Pitt, he'd be good, nice guy. He's educated and smart. I mean, he's only been an actor, but he's educated and smart, and he's good looking, So, you got all, and then you got people who kind of actually say, I don't know about someone like this. They've been all over the place. And I'm going to say this, and it's about you and your opponent. Both of you guys have done a lot of stuff. And I think that actually, gives you an insight to the systems of everything, gives you an insight of doing a great job. Because you have walked in the shoes of many people, so you understand where everybody's coming from. It helps you to take a more systems and overview of everything, in my opinion.
I think so, Vince. One of the things that the Founding Fathers are probably spinning in their grave, is the Founding Fathers never intended for it to be professional politicians.
Right.
They intended for us to be citizen legislators.
Right.
That we went up there, represented our constituents, and did the business of the state, but then we went home to our businesses.
Right.
We didn't stay there all the time.
Even George Washington went back to his farm.
Exactly.
And glad to do it.
And now what's happening is we've created this whole class of people that are professional politicians.
Right.
And I think that when you do that, one of the problems that can happen to you is you're not talking to citizens anymore. You're a politician hanging out with other politicians. It's kind of like actors talking only to other actors. You don't live in the real world anymore. You're living in this very isolated space. One of the things that I see happening a lot in Salem is a lot of our legislature, because of the population, represents Portland. There's a lot of Oregon, Vincent, that isn't Portland. There's a lot of situations and things like that, but they have a very urban Portland orientation. Half of my district geographically, and about half of the population don't live in urban areas, Vincent. They live on farms, they live in small communities and everything like that. Eugene or Portland might as well be Mars to them. It doesn't represent them and everything. And one of the things that I think is very, very important, and those people, quite frankly, feel very unrepresented.
They feel
by the
excluded, right?
They feel like the incumbent who's living has not represented them well, that he has not been interested and attentive to their issues. And they've been pretty clear with me about that. The other thing that's happening is with this wanting to protect people, I have a constituent who told me he runs a very successful business. I'm not going to name the business. He said to me, I will never open another location in the state of Oregon.
Why?
Because with all of the regulations, with all the entitlement programs, it has frankly become so difficult to do business.
Yeah.
That I will open businesses in adjoining states, but I will not open it. I will not open another location here.
Yeah.
We have businesses, Vincent, that are looking at leaving Oregon, saying, you know, when we have all of these things, we just it's a case of when I look at the difficulty to navigate that, there are just other places I can go and run my business and not have that kind of constraint.
Yeah, I was reading a thing about Seattle, you know, and I'm all for, like, of course, you know, I just want everybody to be happy, healthy, and be able to afford a healthy, decent lifestyle. I mean, that's a wish.
Absolutely.
Who wouldn't want? No, I want these people to be starving. Yeah, and of course, then again, it comes out to, like, what is a living wage?
Yes, it
well,
is.
A living wage for you, you probably need more money because you have kids and so forth than me.
Well, see, now I'm at the other end of that. My kids are grown.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't need that as much anymore.
Right, but I mean, I would need less money than some people.
Right.
I need more money than other people.
Right.
And it has to do with my responsibilities and also my how I like to live. I like to live frugally and do things that are basically cheap to do. That's my enjoyment. So what is a living wage? And I get nervous when people start dictating a living wage. I understand the desire. Everybody should do something, but I've seen people who made an enormous amount of money who just squandered it, and they had well beyond a living wage. Okay. Now, then you get into the fact that when legislation says, like in Seattle, any company that has X amount of employees must spend this much on this, and this, and they put them out of business.
Right.
And it's not like these businesses didn't wish that they could, like, come up with all these plans of money. They just couldn't.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, well, what did you gain from that? You know, what did you gain? All of a sudden, you had all these. It wasn't like they're greedy. We're not paying this. We're not paying that. It's, they couldn't do it.
Well, and even beyond that,
some of them are good.
Yeah, philosophically, to me, Vincent, that says I'm kind of really intruding into your space. Okay, should I really pay an individual based on their personal life? Okay, if Vincent has 6 children, should I pay Vincent more because he has 6 children than the single guy that only has 1?
Yeah.
That's a personal decision you made to do that. Okay? I kind of feel like I'm intruding into your life a lot to say that we're going to pay based on that. And it's not fair, okay, to look at it and say, because of lifestyle choices you made, I should compensate you more. That's a personal choice. I mean, there's a couple of things that have kind of the unintended effects that people don't look at.
Unintended.
One of the things that happens is a $15 an hour minimum wage. One of the things as an employer that happens is, let's say that Vincent's been working for my company, okay, for 5 years, and Vincent's making $15, $16 an hour.
Right.
He's very proud of that. He came to work for us and he got up to that rate, and that's a market rate. Well, all of a sudden this new guy comes in, brand new, and he's making $15 an hour. How's that going to make Vincent feel? So I can tell you how it's going to make Vincent feel. Vincent's going to come to me and say, well, I expect you to give me a commensurate raise to what you just gave that guy. And if that's $3 or $4 an hour, I expect $3 or $4 an hour, because to level the playing field, I feel like that's what you need to do. That's a horrendous burden on an employer, Vincent, to say all of a sudden we just re-leveled the playing field and just said it's not just the people at minimum wage level. There's a domino effect that everybody looks at that. Another one is that philosophically, one of the things that I struggle with, and I'm putting this out here, and it may cost me some votes. Okay, the idea of paid family leave. When I look at paid family leave, I get it philosophically. But at the same time, there are two things that bother me about it. The decision for a family to have children is a personal decision that they made. Okay? As an employer, I should not be involved in that.
And it should be a wise decision.
Yeah, and I should not be involved in that as an employer. The other thing that happens, again, is if Vincent's out for 12 weeks and being paid, somebody else has got to do that work, Vincent. Okay, that work needs to be done. That becomes kind of an issue, because if you're out there for that, okay, is somebody going to want to come in for 12 weeks knowing that as soon as Vincent comes back, okay, he's going to want his job back? What do I do with that person?
I've seen a lot of people who are very idealistic and take the stance that this should happen, and then surprisingly, whether by accident or happenstance or whatever, they start running a business, their own business, and then they're like, oh my gosh. You know, then there's a different side to it. Like a lot of the people who became pot growers in medicinal houses, they were into it because they were rogues. They were you know, outlaws in a way, not really breaking the law.
But they were liking it. They liked being those outsiders.
Yeah, and so they like
and
the
now
idea.
They're becoming citizens.
And now they're like railing against government regulation, keeping them down, and this and that. And I just, of course, it tickles me to hear that. But I even heard people, you know, say, well, my wife and I are planning to have kids more, and I'm like, but you're out of work. Well, you know, I go, what are you going to do? Now, this isn't common, but perhaps more common than it should be, is they're saying, well, you know, I'm not worried about it. We got Oregon Health Plan, we got this, we got that, we have this.
The safety net.
There's safety net. And I'm like, well, that should be a safety net, not like an investment strategy, you know, a lifestyle strategy.
I agree. And that's the other thing that I look at is for a lot of government agencies. One of the things a lot of government agencies are struggling with is the obligations they have under PERS, which is the retirement and healthcare system. Well, now you add paid sick leave into that. Okay, that's an additional financial. Remember, governments don't generate money by themselves. That money has to come from somewhere else. So here you have that where they're already struggling, okay, to stay afloat and to provide services. Now we're talking about adding another.
That was the one thing that got me is in the private sector when people go to get, like Warren Buffett would never give him, he'd just know that the deal that a lot of these municipalities and so forth gave themselves, he realized that he couldn't do that. You can't guarantee, I can't guarantee myself 12%
It's crazy.
all the time. And so, but in the government sector, the negotiator said, well, you know, if the market won't give you this, we'll just get it from the poor people who are like retired on a fixed income who
make it
from
up.
their property. We'll make it up.
We'll make it up.
We'll reach in
it out of revenues.
and then I'm like, oh my gosh. So it becomes like,
I call that an unfunded mandate. Okay, you look at that and say, it sounds great. Okay, philosophically, it sounds great.
You want everybody to be happy and healthy.
But
and
then you look at it and say, where
did you get it
from?
Yeah.
Like when people come to me,
who was harmed for this to happen?
This, and I said, philosophically, I agree with you. Okay. Now, on the other hand, let me show you my books. Which one of your coworkers do you want me to lay off to pay for?
As long as you don't cook the books, the numbers don't lie. Is that right?
They're like,
the numbers don't lie.
I said, so which of your coworkers do you want me to lay off in order to fund? Oh, I said, well, those are the choices.
Those are the choices. Yeah,
because
black and white.
I may be able to get there at a time. The other part about it, that one of the interesting things that we have going on right now, unemployment nationally is at one of the lowest levels it's ever been. I can tell you that makes you a better employer. Because you can't keep people, Vincent. You're competing for talent.
That's
people
great,
have
isn't
choices.
it? Yeah.
So what happens is wages go up, things go up, people become better managers.
A natural cycle of things.
Because they have to.
Yeah, natural cycle of things.
One of the worst things that I saw happen in a long time is the recession of 2008, 2010. Is because things went down. A lot of employers candidly slipped back into some bad habits. Because if they knew people were desperate for jobs, they got a little sloppy in terms of their hiring and in terms of how they treated
callous,
people because they knew that people needed that job. Now, then I got calls from them when the economy turned around complaining. I can't find anybody. And I said, because when things were down, you took advantage.
And the word gets out.
People have long memories.
Long memories, the word, and that's appropriate.
And now you're being punished.
And appropriately so.
I teach businesses, if you hire good people and you treat people well, and you allow them to understand those 3 questions we talked about for not-for-profits, your business is going to be more successful. I can show you the data. I've been doing this for 35 years. When you have happy, healthy employees who are engaged in their work, who are engaged in working with their employer, who have that trust, your business is going to be more successful than the average business. It's that simple and that complicated.
You know, we talk about government overreaching and so forth, and sometimes other unions that mean well overreach. I remember I was forced out of work for a while, and I always had this idea, well, I'm going to go out and mow lawns. I'll go out and just get contracts with people, and of course, I had to be competitive. So we got people who are already established, who already do a good job. So I go, well, you know, let's see, they charge you like $100 or whatever. How about if you pay me like $20 for this 2-hour job? $20, okay. Well, there's a lot of people who only want to pay that. That's a better deal for them. There's a lot of people who can't afford more than $20. You got people who are retired, a 90-year-old lady who just can't do it. She's eating dog food and has hardly anything. She's going to go for the deal I give.
Of course.
So you know, I get a whole bunch of people like that, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I had a union guy say, well, that's not right because you're making it bad for the you should demand a minimum wage, a living wage. And I'm like, but you know, poor Miss Aunt May over there can't afford that. You know, and who's going to, you know. And then I had this idea, well, then I could get other people who are out of work like me, homeless people, and we could go there and they could work. And what I could do is like, you know, since I set up the infrastructure and everything, maybe I could take I could take $1 for sourcing it to them. And all of a sudden I'm an exploitous capitalistic pig, you know, and of course I'm causing a system like, and I'm like, well, but there's no other options unless you would feed us all, and how much would that cost the taxpayers? So I'm not a genius and I don't have the answers. I'm just saying, hey, you know,
but you're right.
Sometimes government is keeping us,
people,
you know.
Yeah, when you have those conversations with people, it's like, yes, I take a little piece, but I created the word. It's like, you know, years ago, one of I was up with my team at a presentation for a university of new graduating MBAs, and one of the young women was very curious. She asked one of my associates. She said, "Well, I noticed that all of Mr. Herbert's associates have master's degrees and PhDs and everything, and he doesn't." I said, "Yeah," and so I said, "Okay, I guess that's true."
Yeah.
So, well, how come he gets to be the boss? to which Shelley had a brilliant reply. Because she looked at her and she said, "Because when the clients call, they call and ask for him."
Yeah.
Okay, and we work in his business.
Yeah.
They don't call and ask for us.
Yeah, yeah.
He created the business, and we work in his business.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
yeah.
that's why.
That's why. So I just real quick digress back to the school funding and so forth, getting more bang for our buck.
Right.
And that's all good because that's necessary. We were talking about the accountability and the self-reliancy of the healthcare with lifestyle choices and so forth, where we would be able to, the healthcare that is being delivered would be better delivered simply because the people are making their own choices and having the discipline and the wherewithal to take care of their own lives, to live healthily, and that's less money, that's less outpouring.
And managing health.
What about school? What about, in other ways that doesn't cost anybody anything? I'm not against spending more money if it's appropriate to go into the right place and get more bang for the buck, but what can parents and children as a group of society, what can we do to kind of do the using the healthcare model of lifestyle change on our own without getting the government involved to facilitate a more effective learning and developing skills and competencies to be more self-reliant? What can we do?
Well, one of the things I'd like to see us invest in much more is career and technical education, is recognize that everybody that is matriculating through the K through 12 program, their goal is not to go to college and get a 4-year degree.
Right.
And not stigmatize that. Not say to people the fact that you want to be a plumber or you want to be a carpenter or you want to be an electrician or you want to be an automotive repairer. There's nothing, that should not be a stigma. Okay, we should not give this sense that somehow we're looking down on you because you work with your hands and you work at a trade.
Right.
I think that the other thing that I would like to see, candidly, I'd like to see parents more engaged in the educational process.
PTA and all sorts of stuff.
I grew up in a military family for a big part of my life, and one of the interesting things that people don't realize is because we had the privilege of living on the base with my dad, my parents were expected to be part of the PTO organization because they said, this is a privilege. Okay, we expect you to be engaged in the educational process with your teachers, with your kids. Okay, that's an expectation that we have.
Right.
And I think that's a tough one because I think there are teachers with large classrooms and people are busy holding down it. And in a lot of cases, we're expecting teachers to parent our children for us.
Right, okay? And that's not a good plan either.
It's not daycare. Yeah, the parenting responsibility still belongs to the parents.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that we can be engaged as partner. There are other areas I don't know yet. I'd have to sit down with them, just like I have with other clients, and said, okay, rather than assuming we know what the answers are. Let's kind of step back from this. Let's peel this onion and see if we can find out what some of these root causes are. I was told that one of the reasons that our high school graduation rates may be lower than some other states is because our academic standards are higher. And I respect that. I don't think the way that you beat the curve is you drop your standards.
Right. Right.
But I do think we need to look at that and say, is okay.
Were we expecting too much, too soon, too fast?
Or okay, how do we fix that? Okay, if I set the standard higher and we're not achieving it, how do I change my process? If I have a manufacturing process and I need to hit the standard, what I do is I have to figure it out. I bring a team of people together and we say, how do we improve yields? How do we improve quality? How do we do those things? We actually look at the root causes and we address them.
Right.
So I think that there's probably, and I don't mean to describe children as a product, because they're not.
Right, right.
But I think
but we have goals for them. We have dreams.
One of the things I'm very, very proud of, Vincent, is back in 2006, 2007, when I was working for the credit union, we created a program called a Champion in Education.
Okay.
And the whole premise behind that was for businesses to engage in dialogue with the K through 12 educational system in Lane County. We invited the Bethel School District and the 4J School District, which is Metro Eugene, and to participate with us and said, we're not here to tell you what excellent educators look like, but what we want to do is we want to recognize excellent educational people in 4 categories: educators, administrators, classified staff, and volunteers. And what we're going to do is we're going to allow you guys to basically nominate those people from your schools, from your
Okay.
school district. And then we're going to provide grant money that says that when you select that person, the businesses are actually going to fund. And it doesn't go to the individual, it actually goes to their school. But it also created dialogue to say, let's not stand on the sidelines and harass them. What was really unique, and the reason I'm really, really proud of that program, Vincent, is we didn't go to the schools to tell them what excellence is. We sat down with them. The other is 3 school districts, 2 chambers of commerce, and the University of Oregon and the business coming together. I'm very proud of the fact that that program has been in place 10 years now. It sells out, okay? Every year in late May, they get together over at the Holt Center and recognize those people. And my understanding is a couple years ago they had to move to a bigger venue because they could not accommodate all of the people that wanted to come and recognize those educators.
That's amazing. You know, we're getting ready to close this, wrap this up now. Before we do that, I want to just emphasize how much I admire that you are willing to speak your mind, and knowing that some of your beliefs are, you know, regardless of, I know the intentions are noble, that there were some people you may you say, this is the facts, this is what I got to say. It might lose a few votes, and it's, you know, to hear somebody running for office willing to say that says a lot in my mind. It's just you don't hear a lot of people skirt that and just they don't want to talk the necessary talk, and yet at the same time, I don't think anybody with sense out there hearing that from you would think, well, you know, that's kind of dictatorial, or just you know, thinks he could just run the show. I got to say that just strikes a favorable chord with me. It's just my, you know.
I appreciate it, and I think if people say, Mark, what I would ask them to do, call people who've worked with me, ask them what kind of a leader I am. I've aspired to be and been a leader now for 35 years. Okay, leadership is a gift from the people who agree to follow you.
Yeah.
Okay, you work for them, not the other way around. It's a gift.
Even Attila the Hun understood that.
Exactly, it's a gift, and you need to recognize that, and you need to listen to people. And I don't dictate to people. I block and tackle, and I facilitate. I'd like to see more of that in Salem. I'd like to see us block and tackle and facilitate.
Right.
Okay, convene people, you know, bring people together with differing interests, and create solutions that actually make sense for everybody, not stand up on a bully pulpit and dictate down to people.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of what I'm seeing from is we've decided, you know, this is what we're going to do. This is,
right.
And it's like, really, you know, who did you have a conversation with before you made that decision? You know, I've been wrong. Okay, I've made decisions and had employees come to me and saying, "Did you realize the implications of it?" I didn't.
Yeah.
And I've learned.
Well, otherwise I wouldn't have done
Exactly.
this. Yeah.
You know, and I've been willing to step back and say, "I apologize. I made a mistake." I'm also, what I'm trying to do as a candidate, as a person, as a leader, is to earn people's trust. And I try to earn people. I'm trying to earn people's trust as a candidate the same way I earn people's trust as employees, one person at a time.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't trust me because of my position. Don't trust me because of my title. Don't trust me because of my education. Have a conversation with me. Look at my actions. Look at my track record, and evaluate me based on that.
Okay. Well, in closing, what would you like to communicate with the public here? What would you like to say?
I'd like them to think about a couple things. Okay. If you look at my track record, I have a 35-year track record of bringing people together to create solutions that work. The other thing, the most important thing that I want people to do is when they go to fill out their ballot, I want them to throw out D, R, I, whatever. I want them to vote for the candidate that they feel like brings solutions as the best candidate. I want them to leave that label behind.
Right.
I think it would be arrogant and illegal to say vote for me because I'm African American or vote for me because I'm a woman. In fact, we have laws to protect people from being treated differently than that.
Right.
So what I'm saying to people is let's apply that same thinking to our candidates. Let's look at the candidate.
Okay.
Let's look at the man or woman, the candidate, not the party, and vote for the best person.
Agreed. And that's what I like about, quite frankly, you and a couple of the other candidates. You know, and man, it's going to be an exciting race between you and Marty. I just, you know, he's something. I mean, both of you guys are something. It's like two titans going.
He's a very smart guy.
I
respect Marty a lot, and also having been in this process, I will tell you, running for office is grueling.
Grueling, yeah.
So anybody that has had the courage to step out there and be counted, I applaud all of them.
Oh, yeah, me too. I just feel like in awe when I've spoken to practically all of you. Now, just in closing for me, I just want to say the affordable house situation. I have a plan. I'm not going to talk about it here.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to you later about it sometime down the road, but I have a plan in which if things were to go the way I want to see it done, that within one generation, a good percentage of the population would have affordable housing without government funds, without government intervention. It's just a plan. I'll talk to you about it sometime.
If I'm elected, or if I'm not elected, I want to have that conversation with you, because I think that's huge.
Well, it would really require grassroots of communities to be involved, and not but I'd still like to have that conversation.
Because the biggest issue of addressing the homelessness issue and some of the other is getting them shelter.
Yeah, or even people who aren't homeless. I look at, like, when you look at all these things that are going up, suicide rate, 30% increase in many states. When you see the veterans not getting taken care of, when you see all sorts of costs spiraling out of control, when you see shootings, and we tend to want to kind of like spend all our time talking about these things that I consider tumors.
I agree.
They're actually peripheral to a more underlying problem.
Exactly. They're not. We need to look at the root cause.
So I mean, to basically take care of this issue and this issue and this issue is like saying we'll continue to remove surgically the tumors without addressing a far more direct,
why they're growing.
Cheaper, why they're growing. If we could handle this, not only will it be more
about healthcare delivery versus managing health.
Well, that's how I look at everything. Let's do this. Let's look at the root problem.
Exactly.
And then reap the benefits, because the way the root problem we're doing it now, we're reaping the
we're addressing symptoms. We're not addressing root causes.
And so it'd be a lot more cost effective and direct, and things would happen faster, in my opinion.
Couldn't agree more.
Mark, it's been great.
It's been good.
So this has been Vince and Vinsanity Unplugged with Mark Herbert, and it's going to be an exciting race. Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thank you.